What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. One of the most requested videos that I've gotten this offseason has been the hot seat. Who's on the hot seat? Who could potentially lose their job this season? A lot of people have commented wanting to know who I think would be on this list. So we're going to put a top 10 list together for you. And it was kind of tough because I don't think there are a lot of coaches that are really on the hot seat. There are some that are on the verge of being on the hot seat, or they're starting to go towards that hot seat. But there's a lot of coaches that, unless they just have a disastrous year, they're not going to get fired this year. It's just been, with COVID last year and everything, I think it'll take a little time before you start seeing all these coaches getting fired again. But we could see some. We could see some at the end of the year, especially if some of these coaches that I'm going to talk about have rough years. So let's go through here. There's no perfect way to do this list. I'm just going to do the best that I can based off of my expectations of how likely it is that I think one of these coaches could get fired. And we're going to start with number 10. That's Scott Frost of Nebraska. I think he's pretty safe unless they, have a really bad year, don't make a bowl game, something like that. I think he's pretty safe. But this is the fourth year now, and it's time to start getting better. You go back to his first year 4-8, then 5-7, then last year 3-5. Now that was an all Big Ten schedule, of course. So 3-5. What is that in a normal year? If you have some easy non-conference wins, they're probably close to that 5-7, 6-6 mark. So maybe there was some progress last year, at least on the field. It looked like there was on the defensive side of the ball. The offense needs to pick it up. That's why they brought him in, and the offense just hasn't been as explosive as I think Nebraska fans had hoped. I think unless he, again, has a really bad year, he's safe. I don't think he's all the way on that hot seat yet. But if they go 5-7, 6-6, he's going to start going towards that hot seat, I think. Although the schedule is really tough for Nebraska, and because of that, maybe it's not even about the record. Maybe it's about how well this team plays against some of the top competition. But yeah, watch out. Scott Frost could be heading toward that hot seat if he has a bad year this year. Number 9 is going to be Ed Orgeron of LSU, a coach that just won a national championship a couple of years ago. How is he on the hot seat? Well, it's a couple of different things here. First of all, 5-5 last year. That's just not going to get it done with the talent that LSU brings in. 5-5, not going to get it done. You go back to his first 3 years as the full-time head coach. He was 9-4, 10-3, 15-0. So you saw steady growth. They got better and better each year, and then last year it kind of fell apart and they had a rough year. But again, it was a weird year. It was the COVID year and everything. So assuming they have at least an 8 or 9 win season this year, I think he's safe. I don't really think there's much worry as far as that part of this goes. But it's the off the field issues. What's going to come of that? Is there going to be anything else that comes from the allegations and all that from the past where he was here? He wasn't the head coach necessarily, but he was here. So there are some things like that if they don't have a good year, they could potentially look to make a move. I think he's safe. I mean, the way they're recruiting, and I think this team's going to be really good this year. So I don't see it happening. But if they do have a rough year, which again, I don't think that's going to happen, but if they do, I think you might start talking about Ed Orgeron being on the hot seat. I think he's safe, though. Number 8 is Dino Babers of Syracuse. So now we're starting to get into some head coaches that could get fired at the end of this year. And I think it's a realistic thing that they might actually get fired. I think Dino Babers is on the hot seat. First 2 years, 4-8 at Syracuse, and they had the 10-3 year. They were really good, won a bowl game. And it looked like this was one of the best coaches in the country. I mean, he was rolling with the Syracuse team. Then 2019, they were 5-7. Last year, just 1-10. So they have dropped off big time. And again, you look at his 5 years. Yes, they had one good year, but the other 4 years, they had losing seasons. So yeah, I think he is in big trouble if they don't get it turned around. This could be a coach that potentially gets fired at the end of this season. They might give him another year. Again, because of the COVID and all that, give him a little bit more time. But I think he is definitely on the hot seat. So we're starting to get into some coaches that I think are already on the hot seat. First 2, I think they could get on the hot seat, but I think these top 8 are maybe on the hot seat right now. Number 7 is James Franklin of Penn State. They had a rough year last year. We all know that. 4-5 last season. But I think he's okay. I don't really think he's going to get fired. In fact, when I am going back over this list, I probably should have flipped him with Dino Babers. But anyways, 4-5 last year. Now, if they have another year like that, another losing season, he's probably going to be fired. I don't really see that happening. I think Penn State's going to be much improved this year. There are some out there that think that they're going to fall apart, and it's going to be another rough year. The recruiting class was not great last season. They're off to a pretty good start this year. But if the recruiting class struggles and they wind up slipping and falling down in the recruiting rankings and all of that, and the on-the-field product is not good, this is a place that expects to compete for championships. And 2 losing seasons in a row is not going to get it done at Penn State. Could cost him his job. Again, a coach that I think is trending towards the hot seat. But as long as he has a good year this year, I think he's safe. I think he completely comes off of that hot seat. Number 6 is Chip Kelly of UCLA. Very similar to Scott Frost. He's been there 3 years. He's had 3 losing seasons. 3-9 in 2018, 4-8 in 2019, 3-4 last season. But we saw improvement last year. We saw this team compete much, much better last season. And if you play a regular schedule and have some easy non-conference wins, this team might have made it to a bowl game. So this is the year for Chip Kelly. He's got to prove it this year. They at least have to get to a bowl game. I think if this team doesn't at least get to a bowl game, he's probably going to be gone. I mean, how patient can you be? 4 losing seasons in a row. Again, very similar to Scott Frost here. It's time to put up this year. You got to do it if you're UCLA and Chip Kelly. We'll see if he is able to do that. But he is going to be on the hot seat for sure if they and may lose his job if they have another losing season. Number 5 is Justin Fuente of Virginia Tech. Another coach that is just he's just been mediocre. I mean, we haven't seen Virginia Tech really do a whole lot. In fact, his first year was the best year for Virginia Tech. He was 10-4 his first year there with the Hokies. Then 9-4, 6-7, 8-5, 5-6. So they've just been mediocre. This is a program that expects to compete in the Coastal Division. They expect to be right there with North Carolina and Miami, and it just hasn't been the case the last few years. There was some talk about him a couple of years ago possibly getting fired. Now I think that hot seat is starting to get hot. Now we're talking about coaches that really, really may be in trouble this year, and I think he is one of them. They need to get it turned around, need to have a big year this year at Virginia Tech. Number 4 is Jeff Brohm of Purdue. Now, this one's interesting. He had the one good year at Purdue where they upset Ohio State and all of that. I would say good. Really hasn't had a great year at all. In 2017, they made it to a bowl game. They were 7-6, won a bowl game. 6-7 after that, then 4-8, then 2-4. So I shouldn't say they've had a good year. They've had a good win. Remember, they upset Ohio State. The recruiting looked like it was going to pick up. Rondell Moore, they brought him in. He was going to maybe change his program, but the recruiting has not really improved overall that much. And so when you're recruiting towards the bottom of the Big Ten, you're going 6-7, 4-8, and 2-4 the last 3 years. It may be his last year this year. I think Jeff Brohm is absolutely on the hot seat, and a coach that will probably lose his job unless they have an improved season this year. Probably need to make a bowl game for him to keep his job. And so he is at number 4. Again, we'll get to the top 5. These are the coaches that I think are really on the hot seat. Number 3 is Scott Satterfield of Louisville. Only been there 2 years, and they were 8-5 his first year, 4-7 last year. That was the COVID year. You wouldn't expect him to really be on the hot seat just because of that. But remember, at the end of the year, there was a little bit of drama about him potentially leaving for another job. I don't know how much, did he kind of mess up his relationship a little bit? I know some of the fans don't like him now. So I think because of that, if you have a losing season, 2 losing seasons in a row, fans don't like him. Again, the administration starts to kind of turn on him. You could see Scott Satterfield fired at the end of this year, and I think it's very possible that they have a bad year. When I look at this team, they're not recruiting like they need to start to elevate themselves in the ACC. And 4-7 followed by, say, 4-8 or 5-7. He could get fired at the end of this year. So Scott Satterfield, I think, definitely on the hot seat. Number 2 is Clay Helton of USC. He's been on the hot seat since he's been there, it seems. A lot of people weren't happy with his hire, but he's done some good things. They won a Rose Bowl in 2016, 11-3 in 2017. Last few years, though, you go to 2018, he was 5-7. That's just, I mean, there's no reason for USC to have a losing record, period. I mean, that should not happen. 5-7, you know, if he was going to get fired, you would have thought maybe it was after that year. 2019, they looked a little bit better, 8-5, lost a bowl game. Last year, 5-1, they won the division, went to the Pac-12 championship and lost. You know, they were 5-0 in the regular season, but it was really the product on the field. Yes, they were able to win that division, but they were very close to losing several of those games. They had to come from behind late. I think there was one game they had to get an onside kick. So this year, with the talent they have coming back, I think they really need to win that Pac-12 South once again, or he may be fired. A lot of fans really have been ready for him to go for some time. They're looking for a reason to fire him. And if they don't get it done this year, once again, it could be his last year. But we keep saying that, and he keeps coming back, so who knows. Again, you can't keep living off of 2016 and 17 where they did have really good years. The last few years have been okay. Of course, last year was just, again, so weird. Yeah, they were 5-1, but were they really that good? Well, we'll find out how good they are this year because the schedule is going to be a little bit tougher. So Clay Helton at number 2. But number 1 for me is Jim Harbaugh of Michigan. You got two different camps at Michigan. You got the one side that wants him gone. They're ready for Jim Harbaugh to be fired today. Then you have the other fans that say, well, look, he's had 3 10-win seasons. You know, 9-4 in 2019. Last year was a fluke. They're going to turn it around. They're making some changes to the coaching staff. It's going to happen. They're going to get things turned around. So it's very interesting with Michigan because, you know, he just got a contract extension after going 2-4. That's a little strange. But for Jim Harbaugh, it's time to start to wonder if he's going to actually lose his job. He has not beaten Ohio State a single time. And yeah, you talk about 10 wins, 8-5, 9-4 in his years here at Michigan, but I think there are other coaches that can do that. I think there are other coaches that can have this kind of success at Michigan. They need a coach that's going to compete with Ohio State, that's going to be able to beat Ohio State, that's going to be able to get to Big Ten championships, something that he has not been able to do. Look at bowl games. He's only won 1 bowl game. He's lost 4 bowl games. So there are just things about this Michigan program that are not going in the direction that the fans want it to go. I think this year you need to have at least an 8-4 type year to be safe, maybe even 9-3. But if it's a 7-5, 6-6, or even a losing record, I think Jim Harbaugh will be gone. I think under 500, 5-7 or worse, he absolutely will be fired. If it's a 6-6, 7-5 type year, that's where it's going to be interesting. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. But again, I think he is on the hot seat. Michigan has got to get it turned around this year, or it will be the last year under Jim Harbaugh. So that's my list. Again, it's not a perfect list, just my thoughts on it and how likely it is that I think some of these coaches could get fired this year. Again, most of these, or some of these 10 coaches, I don't think are even on the hot seat yet, but they're starting to head towards that hot seat. If they have a bad year this year, probably not going to get fired this year, but it's going to happen probably after 2022 if they don't get it turned around. But those top 5 or so, I think those are the ones that could be in trouble and could be fired if they don't have good years this year. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Give me your thoughts. Who you think could be fired at the end of the year? Who do you think's on the hot seat? Maybe I left somebody off, somebody that you think is on the hot seat that I didn't put on this list. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.